So restaurant managers. I talk to restaurant managers all day, every day, and what I used to get a lot of when I'm coaching these restaurant managers, uh, managers saying that they just don't have enough time in their shift to get everything we want them to get done. Whether it's guest service, um, monitoring the floor, doing expo, while also having to do admin work like doing payroll, invoicing, doing the liquor order, the food order, doing pre-shift, everything like that. And so what I'm hearing is that they don't really have an issue with time. Instead, they have an issue with time management. And so in the restaurant world, for restaurant managers especially, we need to shift their mindset into thinking about time in a different way. There's basically two types of time when it comes to managing a restaurant. You've got proactive time and reactive time. Okay, proactive time and reactive time. And if the manager knows the difference between that and when to do those different time blocks, I think it'll become apparent to everyone that they have more than enough time, plenty of time to do the admin work, to do the things that are important but aren't guest facing, and also still have time to watch the floor and to make sure guest service is good, make sure their staff is supported, and make sure that they're visible to everybody. And so the first thing I want to do is define what proactive time is as opposed to reactive time. So, proactive time, I like to define that as any kind of action that you're taking that will have a future consequence. Okay, or it's like future planning or future, foolproofing or anything like that. So it could be anything from, future proofing the shift we're about to be on, or the next shift, or the next week. When you're scheduling a week out. When you're ordering, you're usually ordering a day out for the next 2, 3, or 4 days. Even when you're doing pre-shift, because I consider pre-shift proactive time, you are preparing your staff for the next few minutes to be ready for those next few hours, right? And so anything proactive or anything in the future that you're doing for the future, that's proactive. And then reactive time is anything that requires action in real time. It requires you as the manager to react to what the guest needs, what a server or someone on your staff might need in this moment to make sure we get the job done, or if a line cook needs something or if Expo needs something. That's what I would call something reactive, being in the reactive moment. And you can't really be in the reactive time block if you're stuck in the office, right? We've heard it, you know, all the time of servers or bartenders or anyone really complaining about a manager just in the office, even though it's noon on a busy lunch. Like that's not what we want. And I'm sure that manager thinks that they're doing the right thing because they might be doing something important, right? They might be doing the schedule, but should they really be doing it at noon or at 6 p.m., when we've got a full house? So and a lot of that is not because the managers are if they're avoiding the floor. I think it's just because they don't understand how to manage their time, or maybe they don't understand how much time they do have in that proactive time. So let's just go through this real quick. You know, I've got a kind of like a mock, like a timeline from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I know that, let's just say our restaurant's actually open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. But for this purposes, let's just say we have two managers, right? We've got an AM manager that works from 9 to 5. That's a 9-hour shift. And then we've got a, a PM closing manager that comes in at 2, stays till 10. That's about an 8-hour shift or so. So what I want to do, dial up or draw up how much time these managers have if they actually time block the right way. So what I'm going to do for manager 1, who's coming in at 9 M1, we're going to say that they've got these 2 hours for proactive time, right? The restaurant's not open. So obviously they don't need to walk the floor. They don't need to do any kind of guest interaction or anything. this is all proactive time, right? So, I mean, if they needed to be in the office for 2 hours, then, technically they could do it, but I would venture to say that most of the time they don't. And then we want our managers on the floor during traditional, rush, right? And that's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., at least for our restaurant. So I'm going to call that reactive time right there. During this time, we don't want them in the office at all. We want to teach our managers that from 11 to 2, even if it's really dead from 11 to 12, I don't want them in the office catching up on proactive work. How about instead they hang out with their staff? How about instead they get to know their staff on a personal level, or they're just walking and finding little scraps or little things for the servers to do or the bartenders to do until we get a little busy, right? And then from 2 to 5, when it's traditionally slower, we're going to have them, we're going to say that they can do proactive work from 2 to 5. Even though we're open from 2 to 5, I'm going to say, hey, from 2 to 5, you can do some more proactive work. And I'm going to explain why we can do this, even though there's guests possibly in the building, and we want to make sure these guests are taken care of, right? And so, yeah, if manager one, if this is their entire shift, right, they've got, let's see, 2 hours of proactive time here, 3 hours of proactive time there. So they've actually got, let's see, 5 hours of proactive time and 3 hours of reactive time. So look at that. They have 5 hours in one day, 5 hours in one day to do, let's just say, the food order. Let's just say it's a Monday and they have got to do the food order. They've got to do the payroll, let's just say. And they're always having to do, let's just say, a bank run, doing a pre-shift. Don't you think, you would think that in 5 hours, they'll be able to do all of that, right? And then these 3 hours of reactive time, this is gold right here, because if you can get your managers to stay on the floor for 3 hours during the rush, my guess is that they are taking care of a lot of problems that could be happening if they were instead doing the food order or instead doing the schedule at noon, right? So a 2-star review can turn into a 5-star review because the manager was simply taking their laps and they're simply visible and on the floor, and a good manager will see, issues before they even happen. And so, okay, proactive time, 2 to 5, having proactive time. The reason they can have this proactive time is because we're going to bring in the second manager, at 2 o'clock M2, right? And they're going to come in from 2 to 9, and it's all going to be reactive time right there. And then proactive time from 9 to 10 when we close, and they can do the closing checklist. They can check out servers. If anyone needs to be written up, we're going to write them up during proactive time, not reactive time. We're not going to write people up while we're still busy on the floor. And so manager two, they should know. They'll know. They should know coming in that when they're on the floor, or when they come in at 2 o'clock, they're immediately on the floor for these next 7 hours. Or is that right? Yeah, 7 hours. And so if they know that, if they expect that, they're going to be able to be mentally prepared for those kind of things. But for I guess bonus points, what you could do is, if this manager needs more proactive time, if they have something that they really need, if they're the ones that have to do the food order, well, then we can just switch this around a little bit, right? We can say manager two will come in at 2, and from 2 to 3, they'll be in proactive time. And then that just means the first manager, or maybe it's over here, the first manager will have reactive time from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. instead, right? So that this manager two can do their food order or liquor order or whatever it is. Maybe they're the ones who do payroll. So in this diagram here, what you're seeing is that there's a manager on the floor every single hour, every single minute. They'll be on the floor, they're taking their laps. So this right here is a good example of what the difference is between proactive time and reactive time, and how managers, if they divvy up their time this way, if they work with their other manager on staff to make sure that everyone gets their jobs done, then there's still plenty of time for this to happen. We've got, one manager with 4 to 5 hours of doing admin work, basically proactive time. That manager will understand that they have a lot more time than they realize. Um, and same with manager two. If manager two is closing up, I think it should be expected that the closing manager is doing a lot more reactive work, being on the floor, and they shouldn't be bogged down with too much proactive work, because dinner is almost always busier than lunch for most traditional restaurants. So we want that manager like ready to go. So my hope is that when you tell your managers this, that they now understand that even though restaurants are busy, and yes, even though there are going to be curveballs where you might have to, the opening manager might be walking into a flood or might be walking into an HVAC that isn't working. There are going to be times when this won't work, but I would say for 90% of the time, a restaurant that's operating well will be operating like this. So if we can get to understand that we have plenty of time as long as we block it out right and we prioritize time blocks, then I think your managers won't be burnt out. And instead, honestly, they'll probably see this as something refreshing and will want to tackle that day and that next shift with their other managers in order to just pull off a great day at the restaurant. If we can do that 365 times a year, now we're really cooking. So, so yeah, that's all I've got for today in terms of